I matched with my best friend's fiancée 2 weeks before their wedding. I am Travis Ellwood, 31 years old, and after spending a decade being the guy everyone came to for advice, the fixer, the chill friend, my loyalty would become my greatest regret. The loyalty I'd nurtured through years of being Jasper's right-hand man became the center of a complete emotional meltdown at his wedding when his fiancée Mallory demanded I keep my mouth shut. My refusal earned me a furious slap from her, a torn tuxedo, and a gasp from every guest. "You just couldn't leave it alone, could you?" Mallory hissed, as half the room stared in stunned silence. I didn't flinch. Instead, the sickening discovery I made weeks before had awakened something inside me, something cold, sharp, and resolved. My truth would shatter their fairy tale, but save my best friend from a lifetime of lies. But before I tell you how I blew up a wedding with a microphone and a burner phone, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever had to choose between truth and loyalty. Because you have no idea what people will do when you hand them the truth, unwrapped and burning. Now, if you'd asked anyone a year ago about Jasper and Mallory, they'd have told you they were the perfect couple. Mallory had that kind of smooth charm that made women want to be her and men step a little straighter. Jasper, my best friend since freshman year of college, was one of the good ones. Generous, patient, honest to a fault. Or so I thought. They met at a food truck rally, if you can believe it. She ordered vegan tacos. He made a joke about tofu tasting like regret. And the rest was Pinterest board worthy. From the outside, they were golden. Matching running gear, mutual Spotify playlists, joint Insta with adventures in the handle. The kind of couple who made others feel like they were doing something wrong in their own love lives. We all used to laugh about it. At barbecues, game nights, Jasper would say things like, "I don't know how I got so lucky," and Mallory would lean in and smile like she knew exactly how. And me? I genuinely believed in them. I thought I'd be the best man at their wedding without a second thought. That was before the dating app, before the late-night discovery that tore all of that to pieces. It happened on a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home from a brutal 12-hour shift at the HVAC company. My hands were still stained with copper pipe grime, and I collapsed on the couch with a cold beer and zero intention of doing anything meaningful. Out of boredom more than curiosity, I opened the dating app I hadn't touched in months. Not because I was looking for something serious, just, scrolling, killing time. Maybe distracting myself from the fact that everyone around me seemed to be coupling up, while I was still fielding texts from girls who weren't ready to define things. Swipe left, another gym selfie, a girl with a pet snake. Swipe left, and then, there she was, Mallory. Her hair was up in a high ponytail, wearing that same yellow sundress I remembered from Jasper's birthday picnic. But it wasn't an old photo. The bio was different, no mention of Jasper. It said, "Just here to feel a little wanted. Let's keep it light." My thumb froze mid-swipe. I stared at the screen like it had personally punched me in the gut. I double-checked the name. She was using Mal's, but the photos didn't lie. It was her. Same cheek mole, same wrist tattoo, a tiny acorn. The same smile that Jasper once said felt like home. I took a screenshot. My hand was actually shaking. At first, I told myself maybe it was a fake profile. Someone using her pictures. Happens all the time, right? But then I saw the photo she'd taken at Jasper's apartment, same kitchen tile in the background. She uploaded it just 3 days earlier. I stared at the screen for an hour, no exaggeration. My beer went warm in my hand. I kept opening and closing the app, refreshing, hoping it would vanish, that I'd imagined it, but it stayed. The woman my best friend was going to marry in 2 weeks was out here swiping, looking, offering herself up like Jasper was just some placeholder. And in that moment, I didn't feel rage. Not yet. I felt sick, like I was holding someone else's heart in my hand and watching it split wide open. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept going over the photos, zooming in, searching for any sign this was some elaborate joke or misunderstanding. But no, it was her. I even checked the metadata on one of the screenshots, taken 2 nights ago. And the bio? Just here to feel a little wanted. What the hell did that mean? By sunrise, a twisted idea had taken root. Not out of pettiness, at least not at first. I wanted answers. I wanted to know what she was doing. Why? And maybe, somewhere deep down, I wanted to catch her, not just stumble on her, catch her. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I made a fake profile. I named him Blake, took some believable pics from a friend of a friend's public Insta, some guy who posted just enough gym selfies and golden retriever shots to seem real, but not try hard. I gave Blake a job in marketing. Easygoing, sarcastic, not looking for anything too serious. A decent catch, but not intimidating. I swiped right on her. Less than an hour later, she matched. Mallory matched with Blake. Not only that, she messaged first. "Hey, nice smile. You local?" I stared at that message for so long I forgot to breathe. I started replying like I was someone else. At first, just short answers trying to test the waters. "Yeah, been in town a couple years. You seem cool." "What are you looking for on here?" she replied within minutes. "Just someone who gets it. You know? No drama. No pressure." Over the next few days, we talked. Well, they talked. Mallory and Blake. And every word was a hammer hitting what I thought I knew about her. She flirted. She vented about emotional distance in her situationship. She even hinted at meeting up. I felt like I was watching a car crash in slow motion, and I couldn't stop it. She didn't recognize me, not once, not a single red flag, and I realized then, it wasn't just some stupid mistake. It was a pattern. She wasn't bored. She was available. By the end of the week, I had a full gallery of screenshots, flirty messages, late night, "What are you doing?" texts, a photo of her holding a glass of red wine, cheek slightly flushed, captioned, "Wish you were here instead." That one made me physically gag. I didn't respond as much as I could have. I kept it vague, just enough to keep her talking. The less I engaged, the more she opened up, like she needed a place to drop all her secrets. There was a message that gutted me more than all the others. "I know I should be happy," she wrote. "Everyone says I hit the jackpot, but sometimes I wonder if I settled too soon." That wasn't a random thought. That was a dig at Jasper, my best friend, the guy who'd already put down a deposit on a honeymoon in Belize, custom-ordered her dream cake, and handpicked her favorite acoustic trio for the ceremony. The guy who cried when he found the perfect wedding band that had tiny constellations etched on it because she once said stars made her feel safe. She was destroying him one flirty message at a time, and he had no idea. I started compiling the evidence in a hidden folder on my phone. Named it Just in Case, because I still didn't know what I'd do. Part of me thought I could sit her down, show her the messages, scare her straight. Another part wanted to throw my phone on the table in front of Jasper and scream, "Read this. Look what she's doing while you're buying votive candles and writing your vows." But I didn't. I waited, collected, observed. And the deeper I went into the lie, the more I realized she wasn't just cheating, she was playing a role. Smiling at Jasper in the daytime while setting traps for strangers at night. And Blake? He was her escape plan. One night, I messaged her something direct. "What if I told you I'm not who you think I am?" She replied with a winking emoji and a message that said, "Mystery's kind of sexy." I sat there staring at that screen, heart thudding, pulse in my ears. She had no idea how close she was to losing everything. I kept the secret for 11 days. 11 brutal, stomach-knotting, guilt-ridden days where every time I saw Jasper, I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and scream. We had drinks the Saturday before the wedding, just the two of us. A little bachelor nightlight since he didn't want a big scene. He talked about Mallory like she was some kind of treasure the universe dropped in his lap, kept saying how lucky he felt, how he never thought he'd find someone who made him feel seen. It was killing me. He gave me the wedding program to look over. Said he wanted my honest feedback. "You've been there for every big thing, Trav. This one wouldn't feel right without you, front row." Front row. Watching him marry someone I now knew was actively hunting for a backup plan. I remember nodding, pretending to read while my vision blurred. That night I came home, paced my apartment for 2 straight hours, and seriously considered deleting everything. The screenshots, the account, the photos of her, gone. Pretend I never saw it. Let him have the wedding, the illusion, the life he dreamed of. But then I remembered something Jasper told me years ago when I was going through my own messy breakup. I'd rather get wrecked by the truth than built up on a lie. He meant it. And if I kept quiet, I'd be doing exactly what Mallory was doing, choosing the easy lie over the hard truth. I thought about confronting her privately, asking her to call it off. But then what? Let her spin the story? Make it seem like I was jealous? She was that kind of manipulator. Subtle, calculated. She'd twist it so fast I wouldn't even see it coming. No, if this was going to come out, it had to be undeniable. Public. A spotlight she couldn't slither away from. But I needed the right moment. So when the wedding invitation arrived in the mail, cream cardstock, gold-embossed lettering, I stared at it, heart pounding, and I RSVP'd yes. The weeks leading up to the wedding felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck, knowing exactly when and where the impact would hit. Every time I saw a wedding post from Mallory, her bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner, the countdown to forever hashtags, I felt like I was trapped in someone else's nightmare. Friends were reposting their engagement photos with captions like "Goals" and "True love is real," and I just wanted to scream into the void. But I kept quiet. I wasn't just biding time. I was preparing. I printed the screenshots, every single message, every photo Mallory had sent Blake. I even saved the audio message she left one night, half drunk, laughing, talking about how she sometimes wished she could just hit reset on her life, that she felt boxed in. She never mentioned Jasper's name, but she didn't have to. I knew exactly who she was talking about. I bought a cheap voice recorder and slipped it into my jacket pocket. I even ran a full background check on my burner identity just in case someone tried to say I faked the whole thing. I had timestamps, usernames, IP logs, bulletproof. But the part that haunted me the most? I kept hoping, praying that she'd stop, that she'd delete the profile, block Blake, say it was all a mistake, that I could throw everything away and let them be happy. But she didn't. In fact, 2 nights before the wedding, she messaged again. "Can't wait to finally meet you," I didn't respond. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, buttoning my shirt, tying my tie, and practicing my lines. Not to be dramatic, just clear, honest. I rehearsed what I'd say if Jasper asked me why, if Mallory tried to deny, if anyone tried to silence me. Because I wasn't doing this for drama. I was doing it for him, for the friend who helped me move 3 times, who drove me to the ER after I shattered my wrist, who sat on my floor during my worst breakup and handed me a beer without saying a word. And if being a real friend meant being the bad guy today, then so be it. The chapel was stunning. Warm-toned wood beams arched overhead like a cathedral in some old European village. Rows of white folding chairs lined the aisle, draped with tiny sprays of baby's breath and eucalyptus. A string quartet played something soft and forgettable. And everywhere I looked, smiles, phones, people buzzing with the kind of delusion that only weddings seem to conjure. I sat in the second row, just behind Jasper's mom, who kept dabbing her eyes even before the ceremony began. She turned once, gave me a soft smile, and whispered, "He's so lucky to have found her." I almost choked. Mallory hadn't walked down the aisle yet, and already I felt like the room was closing in. My palms were sweating. The folder with the printed screenshots felt like it weighed 20 pounds in the inside pocket of my blazer. Jasper stood at the altar, fidgeting with his cufflinks. He looked nervous, sure, but happy. Genuinely happy. I hated that. I hated how pure his joy was, knowing what it would be reduced to in less than an hour. Then the music shifted. Everyone stood, and there she was. Mallory floated down the aisle like a vision in ivory, hair swept back in a soft wave, veil draped just right. You would never know this woman had sent a "you up" message to a stranger 4 nights ago. She looked serene, glowing, radiant even. I looked straight at her. She didn't meet my eyes. She scanned the crowd like a politician, polished and practiced. Her gaze slid past me like I was a decorative plant. It was almost impressive. The vows were short. They exchanged rings. The officiant said something about forever and trust. My stomach flipped. And then, like that, they kissed. Everyone clapped. I didn't. I just sat there, hands clenched together, counting the seconds until the reception. Because that's where it was going to happen. Not in a whisper. Not behind closed doors. But in front of everyone who thought they knew what love looked like. The reception was held in this grand barn-style venue. Twinkle lights strung across the rafters, tables named after national parks, the kind of rustic chic aesthetic you see on wedding blogs. There was a donut wall, a string of Polaroids, personalized coasters that said J&M, a love story. I barely tasted the dinner. Couldn't tell you what it was. Chicken, I think. All I remember is my heart pounding like a bass drum under my ribs. I watched Mallory dance with her dad, laughing, spinning like she hadn't just built a second life behind her fiancé's back. I watched Jasper give little hugs to every table, the kind of soft-hearted guy who wanted every guest to feel special. He came over to me eventually, threw an arm around my shoulder. "You good, man?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked. He was glowing. God, he was so happy, and it broke me. "I will be," I said. He grinned and moved on to the next table, completely oblivious. Then the DJ tapped the mic, announced, "We've got a few people who want to share a little something for the happy couple," and my window cracked open. I stood up, walked calmly to the mic, took a breath. "My name's Travis," I said. "Most of you know me as Jasper's best friend." Mallory, seated at the head table, turned toward me. Her smile faltered, only slightly, but I saw it, a flicker. She knew. I wanted to say how lucky Jasper is, I continued, to be surrounded by people who love him, people who would never lie to him, or lead double lives, or swipe on dating apps while planning a wedding. Gasps, a few nervous chuckles. Jasper's brow furrowed. Mallory froze. I held up my phone. "This," I said, "is the fake profile Mallory matched with 3 weeks ago. I'm Blake. And I have every message, every photo, every voice note." A silence fell so heavy it felt like gravity doubled. I turned to Jasper. "I'm sorry it had to be like this, but I couldn't let you marry someone who wasn't being real with you." Mallory stood up then, face pale. "That's not... He's lying." I calmly pulled out the folder, then explained these, and I placed them gently on the head table. The room exploded. Not physically, but emotionally, like someone had ripped the air out of the place. You could hear forks hitting plates, a glass shattered somewhere in the back. One woman actually gasped so loudly it echoed. Jasper didn't move at first, just stared at the folder like it was a live grenade. Mallory's voice cracked. "This is insane! He's making it all up! He's obsessed with us!" "You messaged me," I said, calm as ever. "You sent photos. You talked about wishing you'd waited longer. You wanted to meet up." "I was drunk," she hissed. "It was a joke." But the panic in her voice betrayed her. Her hands trembled. Her face turned blotchy under the wedding makeup. "And Jasper?" He finally picked up the folder, flipped through a few pages. His mouth opened once like he might say something, then closed again. His hands shook. He looked at her. "You told Blake you felt trapped," he said quietly. "That wasn't... Jasper, please. You know I love you. This is just Travis trying to ruin us. You didn't recognize him?" he asked, hurt bleeding through every word. "You spent weeks talking to my best friend and never even noticed it was him? I didn't know. It was a stupid fantasy. I never meant to do anything. You did enough." He stepped back. A hush swept through the room. Even the DJ looked like he wanted to crawl under his booth. Mallory started to cry, not the mascara streaming kind, but the tight, angry tears of someone who realized the performance was over. Guests started whispering. Some were already walking out, clutching purses and coats. The best man, Derek, one of Jasper's old college buddies, leaned over and said, "Jesus, man, I'm so sorry." Jasper stood there like a statue for a long time. Then quietly, to everyone, he said, "Thank you all for coming, but the celebration is over." And just like that, the lights didn't seem so warm anymore. The barn felt cold, empty. Mallory reached for his arm. He stepped away. The aftermath hit like a slow, grinding wave. Jasper didn't say much that night. After the reception imploded, he disappeared into the back hallway of the venue with his dad, while Mallory stood alone at the head table, crying and clutching a napkin like it might somehow fix everything. She tried to approach me once, voice shaking, hands outstretched, but I stepped back. "You did this to yourself," I told her. "Don't make me your villain." She didn't say another word. The honeymoon, of course, was canceled. I found out later that Jasper called the resort the next morning and asked if the reservation was transferable. He gave it to his younger sister and her partner instead. Said he couldn't stand the idea of going somewhere that was supposed to mark the start of his forever. Mallory tried to do damage control. She posted some vague story on social media about a complicated situation and people not minding their own business. It didn't work. The screenshots were already circulating. Someone had filmed part of my mic drop on their phone and uploaded it with the caption, "The most savage best man moment in history." It got 500,000 views in 2 days. Some people called me a hero, others called me a snake. But Jasper? He didn't say anything. Not at first. He went silent for almost 2 weeks. I respected that, gave him space, tried not to spiral every time I thought about whether I'd done the right thing, whether I'd broken him. Then, one afternoon, he showed up at my place, didn't text, didn't call, just knocked on my door. When I opened it, he stood there with red eyes and a six-pack of the beer we used to drink in college. "You still got that old Xbox?" he asked. I nodded. He walked in, sat down, opened a can. After a few minutes of silence, he said, "You saved me, Trav. I didn't want to believe it, but you did. We didn't hug, we didn't cry. We just played FIFA until midnight like nothing had changed, but everything had. The dust didn't settle so much as slowly fade into static. People stopped asking questions. The whispers died down. Jasper moved out of the apartment he and Mallory had been sharing and got his own place in a quiet complex on the west side. He didn't rush into dating again. Spent most nights at home, watching old movies or joining me for poker nights with a few of the guys. Mallory, for her part, went underground for a while. Deleted her socials. Word was, she moved back in with her sister upstate. Someone told me she tried to spin the whole thing as emotional confusion, claimed I had a vendetta against her. But by then, no one really cared. Her credibility was toast. As for me, I wrestled with what I'd done more than I expected. Even though I knew I was right, there were moments, usually late at night, where I wondered if I could have handled it differently. Quieter, gentler. If I'd really needed to nuke the wedding in front of 100 people just to tell the truth. But every time I saw Jasper smile, genuinely smile, I knew I'd made the right call. He started talking more openly about the cracks in their relationship, said he'd felt them but ignored them, that he mistook her charm for character, that he'd convinced himself he was happy because he was tired of being alone. And honestly, that hit hard. We've both changed since then, quieter in some ways, wiser maybe, more cautious. One night, over beers, Jasper asked me something I wasn't ready for. "Do you think she ever really loved me?" I didn't lie. "I think she loved the version of you that made her look good." He nodded, eyes dark but steady. That's what I was afraid of. And for the first time, I saw him let go. Not in a dramatic, teary way, but in that subtle shift, the way someone finally exhales after holding their breath for months. He forgave her, eventually. Not to her face, but inside himself. And he forgave me, too. For waiting. For exposing her the way I did. But most importantly, I think he forgave himself. A year has passed since that wedding imploded. Jasper and I are still close. Closer, honestly. There's a kind of bond that only forms when you've been through hell together. We don't talk about Mallory much anymore. Not because we're avoiding it, but because there's not much left to say. The truth was ugly, but it was real. And real is better than perfect. Funny thing is, I started dating someone recently. Her name's Nadia. Met her at a bookstore of all places, reaching for the same copy of The Picture of Dorian Gray. No pretense, no profile bios or filters or curated lies. Just a moment. Real. I told her everything, eventually. The wedding, the fake profile, the reveal. She didn't flinch, just looked at me and said, "So, you're the kind of guy who'd risk everything for someone you love." I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, I guess I am. Jasper's doing okay, too. He's not rushing into anything, but he smiles more. Started painting again, something he gave up when things got too busy with Mallory. He even signed up for a pottery class. Says making something with your hands helps rebuild your spirit. And me? I don't regret what I did. Not the deception. Not the explosion. Not the fallout. Because when someone you love is walking blindfolded into traffic, you don't whisper from the sidewalk. You scream. You tackle them to the ground if you have to. Mallory taught me a hard truth. People can love the idea of someone and still treat them like they're disposable. But loyalty means telling the truth, even when it makes you the villain in the moment, even when it costs you everything. Because real love, friendship or otherwise, doesn't thrive on silence. It survives on truth, always. Have you ever had to choose between telling the truth and keeping someone you love comfortable in a lie? It's one of the hardest decisions you'll ever face, and it doesn't come with applause. Sometimes, doing the right thing looks like betrayal to everyone else. Sometimes, it feels like betrayal to yourself. But here's what I've learned. Silence doesn't protect people. It just delays the damage. And when you care about someone, really care, you tell them the truth, even if it burns everything down. I didn't want to ruin a wedding. I didn't want to be the guy who dropped a bomb in the middle of happily ever after, but I couldn't stand by while my best friend walked into a lie he didn't choose. So if you're carrying a truth, you're scared to speak. I see you. I know how heavy it is. And I promise, it matters. You matter. If my journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to define love and loyalty on your own terms. Let's talk about it in the comments. Have you ever caught someone in a lie and struggled with whether to reveal it? What did you do? What would you do differently? I read every comment, and your stories matter just as much as mine. Because this isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming self-worth, about protecting the people we love, even when it hurts. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes, especially then.
This story is coming to an end. Press like if you like this, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to hear more story from us.